The internet has produced a lot of questionable people over the years, but few creators have managed to stay at the center of controversy for almost a decade, quite like the LaBrant family. On the surface, they're exactly what you'd expect from one of YouTube's biggest family channels. Millions of subscribers, hundreds of millions of views, wholesome Christian branding, and 5 smiling kids featured in almost every upload. But behind that carefully curated image is a long list of controversies that just keeps getting longer. We're talking about parents who put a spider on their daughter for a video, even though she was reportedly allergic.
There we go. Watch, don't move. Here.
No! You're doing a good job, Ed. That's pretty.
Built entire videos around serious medical situations and repeatedly found themselves accused of exploiting their own children for views. And yes, their eldest daughter, Everly, actually had an allergic reaction to that spider, and they made sure to film that too. And that's only scratching the surface.
Oh.
I can't laugh.
No. Oh, hey.
Over the years, they've been criticized by former fans, neighbors, other creators, and even child safety advocates, with many questioning where family content ends and child exploitation begins. So before we get into nearly 10 years of drama, scandals, and questionable decisions, let's meet the family behind one of YouTube's most controversial channels. At the center of it all are Cole and Savannah LaBrant, along with their 5 kids, Everly, 13, Posey, 7, Zealand, 5, Sunday, 4, and Beckham, who is just 2 years old. Between the family channel and their individual social media accounts, the LaBrants have built an online empire that reaches millions of people. And yes, even the toddlers and pets have Instagram accounts dedicated to them, which is a little strange to say the least. And once you've seen how massive this online empire has become, we have to go back to where it all started. Before the LaBrant family ever existed, Cole LaBrant had already built a sizable audience online. Back in 2013, at just 16 years old, he rose to fame on Vine as part of a trio called Dem White Boys. The group made the kind of short-form comedy that thrived on Vine at the time, and one of their biggest viral moments came from a twerking video that exploded across the platform. But looking back, not all of that content has aged particularly well. Many of Cole's older Vines relied on racial stereotypes for comedy, with sketches that mimicked black culture and exaggerated portrayals of black men and women.
Kendrick! What? Now, Kendrick, I swear to God, I've been over this. You yell at me more time, boy, I will cut you.
Some videos also joked about absent fathers and children being born out of wedlock, humor that many critics argued played into long-standing and harmful stereotypes about black families. Other sketches featured exaggerated portrayals of black women reminiscent of racist caricatures that have existed in American media for decades. This particular one does both.
How come you notice your baby? Father?
That baby don't look like me. That baby don't look.
At the time, it was largely brushed off as just Vine humor, but viewed through a modern lens, much of the content has been criticized as insensitive at best and outright racist at worst. While these videos are a far cry from the wholesome Christian family image Cole would later build his brand around, they offer an interesting look at the kind of internet personality he was before becoming one half of the LaBrant family. With Vine beginning to lose steam, Dem White Boys eventually went their separate ways. Cole, however, wasn't done chasing internet fame. In 2015, he and his mother appeared on The Amazing Race, where they finished in 2nd place. Throughout the competition, Cole made his Christian faith a central part of his public image, frequently speaking about God and describing his success as part of a bigger plan. Even outside the show, he leaned heavily into that image. In one Instagram post, Cole wrote that he never wanted to be the kind of person who forgot to give God credit for his accomplishments, saying not enough people did that. On its own, there's nothing particularly controversial about publicly expressing his faith. In fact, many people would see that as a positive thing. The reason it's worth mentioning now is that Cole's faith would go on to become a recurring theme throughout the LaBrant family's story. We'll revisit that later in the video. Not long after The Amazing Race, Cole took a trip to Los Angeles. It was there that he met someone who would completely change the course of his career, Savannah Sutis. Unlike Cole, Savannah wasn't already a massive internet personality, but she had quietly built a respectable following on Musical.ly by posting lip-sync videos with their 3-year-old daughter, Everly. While her audience was nowhere near Cole's, she was already discovering that videos featuring Everly consistently attracted attention. Savannah's childhood was also very different from Cole's. She has spoken openly about growing up in a single-parent household after her father repeatedly cheated on her mother before eventually leaving the family, an experience she says had a lasting impact on her. Years later, history seemed to repeat itself. At just 19 years old, Savannah became pregnant with Everly while dating her then-boyfriend, Tommy Smith. According to Savannah, Tommy also repeatedly cheated on her during their relationship, something she has spoken about publicly. By the time Cole and Savannah met in Los Angeles, they were coming from completely different worlds. Cole was already an established internet celebrity looking for his next chapter, while Savannah was a young single mother with a steadily growing social media presence of her own. As for how they actually met, it wasn't through some elaborate setup or mutual friend. According to Savannah, the two happened to be at the same shopping center. Cole with his brother and Savannah with her sister. They both recognized each other from social media, but neither of them made the first move. Instead, Savannah convinced her sister to walk over and introduce them. The two exchanged numbers, but neither of them expected much to come from it. Cole has admitted he was initially hesitant because Savannah was 4 years older than him and already had a young daughter. Savannah, meanwhile, wasn't exactly looking to jump into another serious relationship either. Despite that, they kept in touch. What started as casual conversations turned into a regular meetup, and before long they were helping each other grow their online followings. As their audiences grew, so did their relationship.
Let's talk about how you met Sav.
I sent Savannah a DM on Musical.ly. You know, as a guy who's making pretty clean family-friendly content, I was looking for other family-friendly content. People would be like, hey, she was one of the people that I messaged. Hey, love your content. You know, if you like my content too, we can share each other's stuff, yada, yada. Send that message probably in like March or April. Didn't hear a thing. June comes around. End of June, I'm in California for like a month long. We're in LA at the Grove, which is an outdoor mall in LA. I see her. I didn't want to go up to her because, again, I knew that she was a mom. I assumed that her husband was probably nearby or something. Right. Little did I know, she had seen my message whenever I sent it, and she actually responded back. And then I'm the one who kind of like left her hanging. So she actually saw me at the mall too, walking away, sent her sister, bumped into her sister who just happened to be leaving. Her sister was like, hey, my sister actually said as I was leaving, if I saw you to go over, say hi. Went and said hi.
No way.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Rest is history.
It all happened incredibly fast. After dating for only 6 months, Cole and Savannah got married in July 2017. Almost immediately afterward, they rebranded Cole's existing family content into the LaBrant Family, with Everly becoming the first child featured on the video. What started as two influencers combining their audiences would soon grow into one of the biggest family brands on YouTube, and eventually one of its most controversial. At first, Cole and Savannah began posting simple couple content together, videos like Meet My Beautiful Girlfriend and How We Met. Compared to Cole's earlier content, these videos performed noticeably better, quickly pulling in more views than anything he had made during his Vine or early YouTube days. But even those numbers would soon be overshadowed. It didn't take long for them to realize something else was driving significantly more attention. Everly, their earliest videos featuring her, performed dramatically better than anything else on the channel. One of the most well-known examples is a video titled 4-Year-Old Girl and Daddy Do Cutest Carpool Karaoke Ever, which remains the most viewed video on the channel to this day. And to be clear, family content itself is not inherently problematic. There are many creators who feature their kids in limited, balanced ways while maintaining clear boundaries. But in this case, once they saw how much attention these videos were getting, the focus of the channel began to shift. What started as occasional appearances from Everly slowly became a core part of the content strategy. Over time, she went from being featured in a few videos here and there to appearing in almost every upload. And it was not just that they were featuring her in cute moments. As the channel grew, they also began doing pranks involving their daughter, including videos where they told her they were going to give her dog away just to capture her reaction on camera. In one of these videos, Everly was around 4 or 5 years old when she was told that her dog was being taken away.
We're giving Carl away to somebody else because we feel like we can't take good enough care of him.
For a child that age, that is an incredibly emotional thing to process in real time. You can clearly see how upset and uncomfortable she becomes throughout the video. Even after she's told it's a prank, she still appears visibly distressed and heartbroken, and does not seem to find it funny at all.
We're gonna let her give him away.
But then Sav finally whispers to her the whole thing is a joke. The family is widely known for their hijinks, but this time some people say the parents took this one too far, and they seem to know it.
and yet the camera never stops rolling. This is where a larger issue with family content starts to become more visible. In these moments, a child's most vulnerable reactions are not just happening privately within a family setting, they're being recorded, uploaded, and shown to millions of viewers online. One of the most talked about moments involves their son Zealand. During a medical emergency at home, paramedics were actively attending to him on the floor. In the middle of that situation, Cole is seen taking a photo. The fact that in a situation like that, the instinct to reach for a camera at all raises questions. When your child is having a seizure on the floor and medical staff are in your home, why is that even something that crosses your mind? That moment stuck with a lot of viewers because it feeds into a bigger pattern people had been pointing out for a while. At what point does documenting stop being about memory and start becoming something else entirely? That concern doesn't just show up in isolated incidents either. Take Everly's ballet content. At around 9 years old, she was doing pointe work and recitals. The issue people point out is that pointe shoes are generally not recommended for kids that young because their bones are still developing. Even organizations like Youth America Grand Prix have age restrictions in place for safety reasons. People familiar with ballet training were warning them online about potential long-term injury risks, but the performances stayed in the videos because those clips were consistently performing well. And then there's the issue of exposure. The channel has a mostly young audience, but with numbers that large, adult viewers are always part of the mix. At one point, there was even a stalking incident where someone reportedly obtained information about Everly's school. Apparently, a stalker had been mass ordering Dominoes to the LaBrant's house, but they had also done the same thing to Everly's school.
Until what happened was they left an address.
Yes.
They left an address on the order.
One of them I happened to catch had an address to somewhere that wasn't our house, but it still had all my information.
And it was like 2 minutes away.
Yeah.
So I was gonna go and drive to the house and just like, I was gonna be nice and chill, just be like, hey, what's going on kind of thing. This is what's happening.
But then we looked up the address, and the address is Everly's school. So that's where we were like, okay, now they're starting to get Everly's school involved. They know where Everly goes to school. This is really, really bad. So,
it's just creepy, like it's not just like they're delivering pizza, they're involving her ex-boyfriend and Everly's biological dad and where Everly goes to school and like leaving weird notes, and it's just so this is just like the beginning of us telling you this. It could get weirder. Mm-hmm. We could come up with more stuff because stuff has been happening all day.
And I also don't want you guys to think that this is for a video because it's not, and I really did not want to film this.
Despite that, videos showing her daily life, including dance recitals and similar content, continued to stay up. Now, it's alleged that they may have made that stalker video for views and it didn't actually happen, but still, for many viewers, it raised concerns about how much visibility a child should have when, if you look at the analytics, Everly's followers on her profiles are 70% adult men. And her highest performing videos are those of her in her dance recitals or doing ballet where she would be wearing noticeably lesser clothing than her actual vlogs. But this wasn't the end of concerns around how the children were being used in content either. At one point, they uploaded a video talking about pulling Everly out of school to start homeschooling her. Homeschooling itself isn't the issue here. The issue is the reasoning behind it. It wasn't framed around her education, structure, or development. Instead, it came down more to convenience inside the household and content. Savannah talked about wanting more time with Everly at home and having an extra pair of hands as the family continued to grow. She also mentioned how helpful it'd be to have around to assist with younger kids as things got busier in the house.
I'm not the type of mom that can do like full-time homeschool. Props to the moms who can. I feel like I would need like help in that area. So I started looking at schools that do like they go to school 2 days a week and then they're home 3 days a week, which I feel like is like perfect for me. Like still gets her out a little bit because she likes to like socialize and like she'd get bored here at the house. And so I feel like her going to school 2 days a week would be super good for her, and then her home 3 days a week would be so nice for all of us. Just like, first of all, seeing her more, spending more time with her, having like more quality time with her in the morning. Second of all, she's helpful with the kids, so I feel like having her here would be nice, just with another baby coming too. Like it's nice having an extra pair of hands around the house, even if it's a 9-year-old, and she likes it. Like she likes helping me out.
At the same time, Cole's schedule was often brought up, with him being frequently out filming and working.
Birthday party, no dancing, no nothing, like, and just everybody's together where he's not like off filming something or, like we're all together. So it was nice. But with all that to say, I feel like it started making me think about homeschool a little bit with Everly because, first of all, she's gone a lot. It would be so nice to just have her home more in the mornings, just to have like slower mornings, and just to spend more time with her, like in the morning, I feel like would be nice, rather than just like we wake up, we rush to school, we're packing lunches, hurry, eat, and then like you're off. And 3 days a week, I feel like she's just like gone all day because she dances 3 full days a week, sometimes 4. And so it started making me think like, oh, homeschool might be fun.
But when you break that down, it starts to look less like an educational decision and more like a practical fix for managing the household. And the problem with that is what it actually means for the child involved. At that age, it's widely understood that children need school or at least consistent social interaction with peers to support their development. That environment's not just about academics, it's where social skills, independence, and identity start forming in a structured way. Removing that structure and placing her more into a home role shifts things in a different direction. Instead of spending most of her time around kids her own age, she's increasingly involved in helping manage younger siblings in a household build around content. And with both parents present, it also raises a simple question of balance, whether it's really appropriate for a child to take on that kind of responsibility at all, especially when the adults in the house are already there to fill those roles. And ironically, that responsibility isn't even just helping around the house in the normal sense, because in their case, the content she helps create is also the very thing that built the platform, brought in the audience, and ultimately generated the income in the first place. In a way, she's already contributing in a far bigger sense than just chores or childcare, just not in a role anyone would normally expect from a child. However, one of the most controversial moments involving the channel came with a video titled "She Got Diagnosed with Cancer" documentary, which featured a thumbnail of their daughter Posey in a hospital bed. At face value, both the title and the thumbnail clearly point toward a serious cancer diagnosis, and for several hours while the video was being promoted as a premiere live, viewers were left under that impression. When the video actually begins, Cole explains he noticed some symptoms, searched them online, and became worried enough to take Posey to the doctor. It's then revealed that she does not have cancer. From there, the video shifted into what he framed as a documentary-style piece meant to raise awareness for childhood cancer. He interviewed several families who had children currently battling the disease. But the structure of the video was heavily weighted toward the build-up and personal story rather than the families themselves. A large portion of the runtime focused on Cole's own anxiety about Posey, the symptoms he noticed, and the entire process of Googling those symptoms and deciding to take her to the doctor. Only a relatively small section of the video was actually dedicated to the interviews with families dealing with childhood cancer.
Really just riddled with anxiety. I had convinced myself that our 2-year-old daughter had cancer, and it sounds so blunt and so almost bad to say, but I was convinced, and I wasn't eating. I couldn't sleep. She had bruising on her legs, like most kids do, but as you Google things, you can just convince yourself of stuff, and that's my personality, unfortunately.
And we really didn't talk to anybody about it.
No.
That's the thing too, so I think it was like eating him up inside too, just like only talking to me about it. And so I was like, nope, everything's fine. Like there's no way that that's gonna happen. Like.
And it wasn't just the anxiety being centered either. The video repeatedly cuts back to vlog-style moments of Cole and Posey together, framing it more like a personal family experience than a focused documentary about the families affected by cancer. At times it feels less like the stories about raising awareness and more like the emotional arc of Cole as a father, with everything else built around that. In fact, out of a roughly 40-minute video, only around a dozen minutes were spent directly engaging with the families themselves. Even within those segments, there were moments that received backlash, including an interview where Cole asked a grieving family how they would describe the moments leading up to and after their child passed away, during what was presented as a casual dinner setting. The tone of that interaction stood out to many viewers, especially given the sensitivity of the subject matter.
I'm not gonna say like, what did it feel like, because I can only imagine the worst imaginable pain in the world, but how would you explain the moments leading up to and the moments shortly after?
Well, leading up to it, I guess we didn't really expect it.
Cole also made comments referencing a childhood acquaintance who had leukemia and passed away, but the way it was framed raised even more questions.
Waking up in the middle of the night with leg pain, growing pains, whatever it was, she was waking up
and she was like
screaming. And it happened like for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks straight. And all that I could think of was this kid growing up who complained about leg pain, and it ended up being leukemia. And he ended up passing away. And I was thinking maybe that happened for a reason so that now I would be aware and get her taken in. But I was such a nervous wreck that I couldn't even take her in.
Instead of simply acknowledging it as someone he knew who had died from cancer, he presented it as someone that happened so he could learn a lesson and become more alert to Posey's symptoms. The way it was framed came across as taking a deeply personal tragedy that happened to someone else and reshaping it into part of his own narrative arc in the video, which many found uncomfortable. And then there's the way the entire situation is presented even after the fact. Even once it's revealed that Posey does not have cancer, the video continues to circle back to earlier moments without clearly separating the clickbait framing from reality. Instead of directly stating that the diagnosis was never true, the language repeatedly refers to "when I thought she had cancer," which keeps the emotional weight of the original title intact throughout the video.
I gotta do something. That's all that was in my head, is like, whenever I thought Posey had cancer, all I was thinking was like, we gotta fight. We gotta do something. We gotta fight. And even after, it's like, we gotta fight, you know? Like, I don't just want to fight.
It'd be so easy to just, because you see sad things.
Many people took to Twitter to call out their horrendous behavior, and honestly, the backlash was completely justified. One user explained how mistitling the video and uploading it as a premiere would have left many of their younger viewers believing that Posey had actually been diagnosed with cancer while they waited for the video to go live. They also pointed out that the pain of the families the LaBrants interviewed was being used to generate profit for themselves. They had mistitled the video to garner views and sympathy for a disease that wasn't even affecting their own family, while capitalizing on the stories of people who were actually living through it. And honestly, making a documentary about childhood cancer wouldn't have been a problem if they had simply titled it accurately, instead of framing it like it was something happening to their own daughter. That's what made the whole thing feel so manipulative. They also received criticism for essentially using Posey as the face of the video, despite the fact that she never had cancer in the first place. In response, Cole defended himself in a now unavailable Instagram story, saying they would never intentionally do something like that because it wasn't in their hearts. But according to one commenter, that response completely missed the point, and instead came across like they were gaslighting viewers who were understandably upset by what they had done. And it wasn't the only time Cole inserted himself into a real tragedy affecting thousands of people for the sake of content. Back in 2018, California was devastated by massive wildfires. Entire neighborhoods were burning. Thousands of families were forced to evacuate, and many people lost everything they owned. It was one of the state's worst wildfire seasons in recent history. Right in the middle of all this, Cole uploaded a vlog titled, "We left our house because of fires in California." The video starts with Cole saying that he and Savannah were praying for everyone affected by the fires.
Praying for everything going on out here in California. There's always wildfires going on, but I believe that this is the biggest one to ever happen in California history. I saw that on some news sites, so we didn't realize how crazy the fires were.
But almost immediately after saying that, the video cuts into the channel's usual flashy intro with upbeat music and smiling family shots. It felt incredibly out of place considering the topic they're supposedly covering. After that, Cole climbs onto the roof of his house and tells viewers that they had just received an evacuation notice and that the wildfire was only about 4 miles away.
As you guys can tell since the last time I recorded, it's gotten a lot closer. I think it's like 4 miles away.
Yeah.
And we just got an evacuation thing. I have this backpack on that has like our laptop and camera and...
Now naturally, if you're watching this, you're expecting the rest of the vlog to show a family preparing to evacuate. You'd expect them to be packing important belongings, making plans, or at the very least looking genuinely worried about the possibility of losing their home. Instead, none of that really happens. For the majority of the vlog, everyone seems surprisingly calm. They're talking to the camera, hanging around the house, joking with each other, and overall acting like it's just another normal day. At no point does it really feel like a family that's convinced they're about to lose their house to a wildfire.
Then you guys kind of saw what happened. Keep you guys updated. So we're all packed up. Couple PlayStation for Fortnite. So we got our necessities in these 2 tiny bags. Everything that we don't want to get burned down is all right here. Hey, we're about to go pick Everly up. Are you still pregnant?
And then things got even stranger. The family went on a trip to San Francisco. Cole even made an Instagram post saying the city was special because it was where he had first asked Savannah to be his girlfriend, which is a pretty interesting time to be taking a sentimental family vacation if your home is supposedly under immediate threat from one of California's largest wildfires. Then the story began to fall apart.
Savannah told BuzzFeed News the couple had no comment on the criticism. It's unclear when the video was filmed, but Cole posted to Instagram on August 11th that he took his wife to San Francisco to celebrate an anniversary. I took Savannah back to the spot where I asked her to be my girlfriend 2 years ago, he wrote. I had no idea in just 2 years this girl would become my wife. I'd move across the country for her, became a dad to her incredible kid, and get her pregnant with baby number 2. Crazy how God works. Can't wait to come back here in 2 more years and see what all has happened. People have also been calling the couple out online, saying they have no compassion or sympathy for fire victims.
Several of Cole's own neighbors were later interviewed about the video, and according to them, nobody in the neighborhood had actually received an evacuation notice. They said the wildfire wasn't going anywhere close enough to require one.
Friends who were evacuated in very scary situation, so kind of making light of that, I don't think was proper, just to make a buck.
One neighbor even described the video as disrespectful, pointing out that while families across California were genuinely fleeing their homes and losing everything they owned, the LaBrants appeared to be exaggerating their own situation for content.
There was no evacuation notice to Ladera Ranch.
Marissa Seamus lives near the LaBrants. She says plenty of the neighbors are not amused by the social media influencers.
I just think it's really sad that they would exploit a situation that's as serious as a fire that so many people were evacuated from, just so that they could get more likes or more hits on their channel.
It wasn't just the neighbors making that claim either. Local news coverage at the time included wildfire maps showing that the active fire was significantly farther away from their neighborhood than the vlog suggested, casting even more doubt on the video's central premise. If that's the case, then this stops looking like a family documenting a frightening experience and starts looking like something else entirely. Instead of covering a tragedy, they appear to have used one as the backdrop for another viral vlog. And unfortunately, if you've been paying attention so far, this is starting to become a pattern. Whether it's their own children or a statewide disaster, the camera always seems to find its way into moments that probably should have stayed off YouTube. Speaking of moments that probably should have stayed off YouTube, we need to talk about their abortion documentary. The video opened with a disclaimer saying that all revenue from it would be donated to pregnancy centers. On the surface, that sounded charitable. However, many critics online pointed out that the pregnancy centers being referenced were apparently crisis pregnancy centers, organizations that have been criticized by some people for discouraging abortion rather than providing what critics consider fully balanced information about all available options. Because of that, some viewers felt the documentary's perspective was already being established before it had even begun. Then the documentary itself continued in that same direction. Throughout the film, Cole and Savannah described their position as being pro-love rather than explicitly labeling it as political or religious. To some viewers, that wording initially suggested the documentary might present multiple perspectives or at least explore the topic from different angles.
There is so much passion on either side of the topic and seems to be no middle ground and virtually no humane conversations.
However, many critics argued that the documentary ultimately presented a predominantly pro-life viewpoint. Now, we're not saying this is a problem. In fact, we understand that this is a sensitive topic and people are bound to have different opinions on it. The issue here is that the video specifically tried to avoid this pro-life label, yet leaning heavily into it, which many viewers said was misleading. One of the main central emotional threads in the video was Savannah's personal story. She spoke about becoming pregnant with Everly at 19 while in a difficult relationship, and the fear and uncertainty she experienced before deciding to continue her pregnancy. That story became a recurring focus throughout the documentary.
So what if you're watching this and you're thinking, should I keep my baby even though it's too hard? As a matter of fact, I was in that position. I was 19 when I got pregnant with Everly, and I remember just being so scared. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was actually in school, in college, and I was too scared to tell my family. I was too scared to tell my friends. It was just a lot for me to take in, being so young. I remember those moments just being so terrified of just like what the future would look like, what my life was gonna look like. Just so many things going through my head at that moment and just knowing how hard it was gonna be.
Now, critics generally don't take issue with Savannah sharing her own experience. Instead, many felt the documentary relied so heavily on that single story that it became the primary lens through which the broader issue was presented. Here we'd like to emphasize that Savannah sharing her story wasn't what people had a problem with. It was the fact that the video might have been pushing people to choose the same path as she did, framing it as something that should be done. Some commentators argued that this framing made her experience feel less like one personal account and more like the preferred outcome. Another criticism centered on what viewers believed was missing from the discussion. Some argued the documentary gave little attention to circumstances such as severe financial hardship, lack of support from family or a partner, serious health concerns, or pregnancies resulting from sexual assault. Critics felt those realities play a significant role in why many people seek abortions, but were largely absent from the broader conversation. Instead, the documentary included comparisons between abortion and some of history's most horrific atrocities, including the Holocaust.
And the baby. Maybe the answer isn't either or, but rather both. I have my personal convictions. You have yours. We're all so different, and that's okay. But where is God's heart at?
This became one of the documentary's most controversial moments. Many viewers felt the comparison was unnecessarily inflammatory, arguing that invoking genocidal events shifted the discussion away from a nuanced conversation and toward emotionally charged historical analogies. Around the same time, Cole's previous comments on abortion also resurfaced online. One widely circulated statement suggested that he would encourage his daughter to continue a pregnancy even if it resulted from rape. Whether or not he still stood by that exact wording, critics said those comments reinforced their belief that the documentary wasn't simply presenting a personal story, but advocating for a firmly established position. The documentary also featured interviews with medical professionals, which initially gave some viewers the impression that additional perspectives might be included. One physician discussed fetal development and claimed there isn't a universal agreement on the philosophical question of when life begins. Some viewers saw this as one of the documentary's more informational moments, but another interview took a noticeably different approach. A different doctor described abortion procedures in graphic detail, placing particular emphasis on surgical methods. Critics argued that this section focused heavily on emotionally charged descriptions rather than broader medical context, and many felt it was designed to evoke a strong emotional response from viewers. By the end of the documentary, Cole said the goal wasn't to push legislation or make a political statement, but to simply save one life.
The answer is just if one baby is saved from this, if one mom chooses to keep her baby from it, then it's all worth it. This documentary by no means is trying to illegalize abortion. After this documentary, you're still gonna have the choice.
Yeah.
You're still gonna have your choice.
While supporters viewed that as an expression on his personal beliefs, many critics online argued that it didn't align with how the documentary had been presented. They felt that despite those claims, the film overwhelmingly promoted one viewpoint while offering little space for opposing perspectives, which ultimately became one of the biggest sources of backlash following its release. But the thing is, this wasn't an isolated controversy, because once you start looking at the LaBrant family as a whole, it becomes less about one or two bad videos and more about a consistent pattern of behavior both on and off the channel. One of the weirdest running themes with Cole and Savannah was how often they brought up the fact that Everly was born out of wedlock. It came up repeatedly in videos and conversations, and over time it started to feel unnecessary and kind of uncomfortable, especially considering she was also the main reason their channel gained traction in the first place.
When you get pregnant out of wedlock, these are just kind of things that happen. We know God designs pregnancy for marriage, and so when it happens outside of that, there's just things that are gonna happen, right? And that came with a lot of sadness.
The gift of waiting is so special because I went through it. I waited with him. I didn't wait with other person. I think the heartache that comes with not waiting before marriage can be so devastating for a girl.
Another moment that got a lot of attention was a comment Cole had made involving David Beckham's daughter, where he talked about waiting 20 years in reference to her growing up. He said, "I may just wait 20 years for David Beckham's 3-year-old daughter because she's going to be gorgeous." Well, this is just disgusting. Cole also made several strange comments about Savannah and pregnancy over the years. At one point, he said she had been pregnant 95% of the time they'd been together, and joked that he didn't even know if he would like her the same way once she wasn't pregnant anymore. He said, "Savannah's either been pregnant or breastfeeding a newborn for 95% of our 7-year marriage. I hope I still like her even when she's not pregnant breastfeeding, because I can't really remember what that's like." This was around the same period when they filmed Cole getting a vasectomy, since they had already decided to stop having children after 4 kids in about 10 years, which of course he filmed for content.
Dear Jesus, please let Daddy's belly not hurt. Please let him.
Oh, Jesus. Oh gosh, this is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big needle. That's the one?
Yeah, this is the worst part of the whole thing, and it's quick.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Oh. Okay.
This is it.
Hallelujah.
When you step back, it also raises a bigger question people have pointed out before, which is that their family size and timing often aligned very closely with the growth of their family channel model, where more kids naturally meant more content opportunities. And these weren't the only odd things Cole had posted online either. Cole had always positioned himself publicly as someone who believed in waiting until marriage before having sex. It was a big part of his early religious branding online.
Dating is not in the Bible. God did not create man and woman to be boyfriend and girlfriend. He created man and woman to be husband and wife.
But once he actually got married, the way he talked about it online shifted into something very different from that original message. Shortly after, he posted a tweet saying, "Feels good to cross one more thing off the list. #bucket list, by virginity, heaven bound." It came across like he was turning something very personal into a public achievement list. And a lot of people found that kind of oversharing unnecessary, given how he strongly had previously emphasized purity and faith. He followed that up with another post saying, "Your Google search is just a bit after you lose your virginity," along with a screenshot of his search history. Well, this is just cringe. However, Savannah wasn't completely out of the spotlight either when it came to questionable online behavior. There were instances where she was reportedly seen using the N-word in comments sections as well, which later resurfaced and added to the wider criticism around the family's online presence and the kind of image they presented versus what people found when digging into their past activity. Another thing that came up over the years was that the LaBrants apparently weren't the most friendly neighbors either. One former neighbor, who claimed to be verified on Reddit through proof of address and identity, posted a pretty long account of their experience living near the family. According to them, the public image the LaBrants presented online didn't really match how they behaved in real life. According to the neighbor, they filmed their gender reveal in a very public park, and afterwards, Savannah and her mother allegedly went door to door in the surrounding neighborhood asking people if they had children, and even requesting to check their phones to make sure nobody had recorded the event. The neighbor described it as intrusive and said that when they personally refused, Savannah allegedly pushed further, asking who else lived in the house and refusing to leave immediately when asked. If true, it paints a very different picture from the wholesome family next door image they often presented online. In a follow-up Q&A, the same user also claimed the family was loud and disruptive during filming, especially when recording outside, and that most neighbors avoided confrontation because it wasn't worth dealing with the situation. They also addressed the so-called pizza stalker incident, claiming that the situation was exaggerated and that locals believed it was not as it was publicly portrayed. Interestingly, when asked about Everly, the neighbor described her very differently from the online narrative. They said she came across as polite and sweet in person, but noticeably resistant when it came to filming, often only showing discomfort during content-related situations. By this point, the accusations of child exploitation had become so common that the LaBrants eventually felt the need to address them directly, and they didn't just do it once either. Over the years, they responded in tweets, videos, and interviews, trying to convince viewers that there was nothing wrong with the way they involved their kids in content. In one video, Cole and Savannah argued that people shouldn't feel bad for their children because they lived great lives. They said their kids got to travel, had nice things, and were probably a little spoiled, if anything.
Say, "Oh, poor Everly," or like, "Oh, I feel bad for the older ones." Or,
Trust me, you do not need to feel bad for our kids. Our kids are happy and well taken care of, and if anything, they're a little bit spoiled.
Don't feel bad for my kids.
But that's kind of missing the point. The criticism was never that their kids didn't have toys or nice vacations. The criticism was that they were growing up with cameras pointed at them almost every day, having some of their happiest moments, saddest moments, and most vulnerable moments uploaded for millions of strangers to watch. Getting nice gifts doesn't magically erase that. A child can have a privileged life and still be exploited. Cole also tried defending himself on Twitter, writing, "First off, we don't use our children for fame. We hate the fame. It's the worst part of what we do. Savannah and I both had large followings before ever posting our kids. They're our kids in pride and joy, so of course we include them in everything we do now." Yes, Cole and Savannah already had audiences before they met, but their biggest videos by far were the ones centered around their children, especially Everly. Those videos consistently pulled in the most views, which also meant the most ad revenue. Whether fame itself was the goal or not is almost beside the point. The success of the channel became directly tied to putting their kids on camera. And if fame really was the worst part of the job, then why build that same lifestyle for your own children? Why create Instagram accounts for them before they're old enough to understand what social media even is? Why continue filming them through medical emergencies, emotional breakdowns, and private moments instead of protecting their privacy? That question became even more interesting when California introduced new protections for children featured in online content. Among other things, the law required creators to set aside a significant portion of earnings generated by minors, placed restrictions on monetized accounts for younger children, and gave older kids the legal right to request the removal of content featuring them once they became adults. Just days after those protections were introduced, the LaBrants announced they were moving from California to Tennessee. To be fair, they said the move had already been planned and claimed they already had financial accounts set up for their children. That could absolutely be true.
We're setting aside the proper finances. I think that could be a big one as kids get older and they realize the money that was stolen from them.
Yeah.
We are, and we always will be setting aside so much for our kids.
But the timing was interesting. And as you'll see later in this video, that timing became even more interesting when Tennessee eventually started looking at similar protections of its own. Of course, all that falls apart if the kids don't actually want to be filmed in the first place. Cole's argument became even harder to believe once you looked at claims from people who allegedly knew the family behind the scenes. Back in 2021, a user named Peaches67 claimed they knew someone close to Everly. According to their post, this person allegedly said that Everly had opened up about disliking how often she had to film vlogs, and that a lot of what she said on camera wasn't fully natural, but instead guided or told to her by Cole and Savannah. The user also said there were more details they couldn't share to protect the source, but emphasized that what they heard suggested the reality behind the scenes was very different from what viewers saw online. They described it as very sad, and implied it could lead to long-term issues as the kids grew up under constant filming. If even a fraction of that's true, it completely changes how you view the family vlog image they present. And it raises a much bigger question about how much control the kids actually had over the content being built around them, and maybe a reason as to why they left California. And if all that wasn't enough, we haven't even gotten to the part where things shift from controversial family channel to how many ways can you monetize a fan base. Now, we haven't found any direct clips of them talking about this in detail, but according to Reddit posts and discussions at the time, one of their earliest business ventures was something that was basically pitched as their own online mall. The idea, from what people recall, was that users could buy from a curated selection of products that the LaBrants recommended. Things like clothes, books, games, and other lifestyle items would all be grouped into one place. The catch is that you could still buy all those same products anywhere else for cheaper. So in practice, it functioned a lot like a basic dropshipping or affiliate-style store wrapped in influencer branding. According to users who remember the launch, the project was a major failure almost immediately. People online described it as confusing, unnecessary, and poorly thought out, and the site reportedly never gained any real traction. The LaBrants later claimed there were technical issues and that they would revisit or relaunch the idea, but according to those same discussions, nothing ever came from it. Some commenters also pointed out how it was marketed in a way that suggested other people could start their own mall and make money too, which led to criticism that it resembled a pyramid-style structure more than a sustainable business model. Their next venture had to do with the fitness industry, and this one stood out because realistically, neither Cole nor Savannah had any real background in fitness. They weren't certified trainers, they didn't have any professional experience in the field, and beyond the occasional workout, nothing suggested they had any real expertise to build a program around. Still, they launched something called LaBrant Fit, a fitness app that was promoted alongside Savannah's friend Katie, who is an actual personal trainer.
Hello and welcome to LaBrant Fit. We are so excited that you have joined us. I'm Cole.
I'm Savannah.
And this is our trainer, Katie. We designed this program, no weights, so there's no excuses. You can do it anytime, any place, anywhere. It's only 20 minutes. If you just started your workout journey or you've been working out for 10 years, you'll fit right on it.
From the start, a lot of people online questioned why it even existed. On Reddit, users pointed out that it felt unnecessary and unqualified, with many saying it didn't make sense for them to be selling fitness programs in the first place. One comment summed up the general reaction pretty bluntly, saying it was strange that they thought they were qualified to run workout classes at all, especially since Savannah didn't even appear particularly invested in fitness publicly. The same comment also criticized the idea that they were suddenly on a health journey while mostly being known for lifestyle and family content. Another user added that the actual workouts didn't match the branding. In preview clips, Katie was the one leading the entire session, while Cole and Savannah mostly stood around making occasional comments like, "Yeah, this feels great," rather than actually instructing anything. That led to more criticism that the app probably should have been branded around the trainer doing the work, not the LaBrants themselves. Around the same time, time, Savannah also reportedly mentioned on an Instagram story that she didn't really work out regularly, which made the whole fitness branding feel even more disconnected from reality. People also mocked small details like Cole posting workout clips with incorrect form, and Savannah doing workouts fully styled with makeup and her hair down, which only added to the perception that the whole thing was more image-focused than fitness-focused. Like their previous ventures, LaBrant Fit ultimately didn't gain much traction and faded out without much explanation. Another one of Savannah's business ventures was her clothing line, Salve LaBrant Style. Like most of the LaBrant's other business attempts, there wasn't much official trace of it left online today, but the internet definitely hasn't forgotten how it went. According to one Reddit post discussing the brand years later, the last activity on its page was over a year before the post itself was made, which is already several years old. Users in the comments were mostly talking about the same issues like unfulfilled orders, missing items, and refund requests that were either ignored or delayed for long periods. One detailed comment went into a personal experience with the brand and described it as, in their words, a drop-shipping style operation that ended with customers losing money and never receiving proper products. The user claimed they had ordered around $50 worth of items, including matching outfits, and only received responses after escalating the issue through the Better Business Bureau. They described long delays, repeated unanswered messages, and eventually receiving replacement offers instead of refunds. Even after months of back and forth, they still only received a small portion of their original order, with quality issues on the items that did arrive. They also claimed that after reverse searching the products, they found the same items listed on AliExpress for significantly lower prices, which led them to believe this store was operating on a drop-shipping model with inflated pricing and long shipping delays. Beyond the business side, the commenter also criticized how the brand was presented, saying it didn't resemble the lifestyle or clothing Savannah promoted on her social media. Instead, it felt disconnected from the image being sold to followers. Overall, like several of their other ventures, Salve LaBrant Style ended up fading out without much success, leaving behind a lot of frustrated customers and unanswered questions about how it was run behind the scenes. But this was barely the biggest controversy surrounding the LaBrant's business ventures. By this point, the LaBrants had already started becoming a much more divisive channel. Their abortion documentary, their political views, and some of Cole's online posts had pushed away a portion of their audience while attracting more conservative Christian audience that aligned with their beliefs. And honestly, this shift in their audience makes what happened next make a lot more sense. The LaBrants had always been very vocal about their Christianity, constantly talking about their faith, marriage, and raising their kids under Christian values. So naturally, the next step was turning that audience into an entire platform. That's where Bearfruit came in. According to Cole and Savannah, Bearfruit was supposed to be a subscription-based Christian app designed to help people strengthen their faith, improve their marriages, and raise their families according to Christian values. The concept itself wasn't necessarily unusual. Plenty of creators create communities around their beliefs. But things started getting strange even before the app was officially released. While promoting Bearfruit, Cole posted some very questionable promotional material, including edited conversations between himself and, well, let's just say famous figures. And honestly, we still don't know what the goal was here. Was this supposed to create hype? Was it a joke? Was it meant to make the app look more connected than it actually was? Whatever the reason, it definitely got people talking. When Bearfruit finally launched, the LaBrants heavily promoted it across their platforms.
Hey guys, it's time. It's time to tell you about the biggest thing that we have probably ever done. Well, I mean, we got married and we had kids. Okay guys, this is Bearfruit. Guys, we built this thing from scratch. I wish that I had something like this whenever we first got married and whenever we first started having kids, because it's so hard. It's so hard to have a good marriage.
They explained that subscribers would receive access to exclusive courses and discussions. They also heavily advertised giveaways, promising things like iPhones, iPads, headphones, and even cash prizes reaching up to $10,000. Now, this is where one of the first major issues came up. Bearfruit wasn't just a Christian community. It was a Christian community locked behind a subscription fee. The LaBrants defended this on Instagram, explaining that they wanted Bearfruit to remain a Christian space and that opening it up to advertisements could result in companies promoting things that didn't align with their beliefs. But that explanation didn't exactly convince everyone. The idea of charging people monthly for access to religious guidance felt strange to many, especially because Christianity has historically emphasized spreading faith freely. The whole thing created an awkward contrast between the message of faith and the business model behind it. Then there was the actual content inside the app. The LaBrants marketed Bearfruit as a guide for creating strong Christian families, explaining that marriage is difficult, raising kids is challenging, and people need guidance to build a God-centered household. But when people actually looked through the topics, some of the courses raised eyebrows. Some examples included finding the one in 30 days, sex before marriage, and spice up your marriage. At one point, they promoted a live stream discussing topics like spying, pornography, and the second coming of Jesus, which is certainly an interesting combo of topics for one event. Another controversy came from Bearfruit's views on transgender issues. The official account posted messages saying things like, "God made your son to be a son," and "God made your daughter to be a daughter." When people pushed back against those statements, the official Bearfruit account responded by saying that those people were in the wrong place because they weren't following Christian beliefs. Regardless of someone's personal views on the topic, the response showed that Bearfruit was promoting a very specific worldview rather than being an open discussion platform. Then came the giveaway controversy. The giveaways were one of the biggest selling points of the app, but some winners claimed that they never actually received the prizes they were promised. On top of that, screenshots circulated showing that users were encouraged to leave positive reviews in order to be considered for giveaways. If true, that creates a pretty obvious problem. Reviews are supposed to show people's genuine opinions, not become another way to increase the app's rating. They also talked about creating an inner circle of supporters and rewarding loyal members by potentially making them honorary founders of the app.
Post that read, "Creating an app like Bearfruit from total scratch is not easy or cheap, but we did it from scratch because we wanted the freedom to grow this platform and community to cater to you. We're working on making every one of you honorary founding members with special perks within the app."
Which again made the app feel less like a simple Christian resource and more like a subscription community built around the LaBrant brand. The launch itself wasn't exactly flawless either. People quickly pointed out grammar mistakes and errors throughout the app's descriptions and promotional material. Not exactly the best look for a paid educational platform. But the biggest controversy surrounding Bearfruit came later. In April 2024, a TikTok account called Sir Funds A Lot uploaded a video alleging that they had previously pitched a homeschooling course idea to Cole.
Call with Cole LaBrant to discuss what we presented as a multi-million-dollar opportunity. Cole said, "You have my attention," and we scheduled our exciting call.
According to their story, they had a lengthy conversation with Cole, shared their idea, and had an NDA involved before discussing the details.
But it's not April Fool's Day. We just got off the call with Cole LaBrant for an hour where we gave him our presentation. He really liked it. He really liked it. He was very intrigued. He was very intrigued. He's like, he had no idea what, like, this is perfect for them because they have no idea, like, about digital products.
Yeah, and he said if this was the number one moneymaker, his motivation on putting all of his energy into it will exponentially go up.
They claimed that after those conversations, communication suddenly stopped. Later, when Bearfruit launched, they noticed that the platform included homeschooling-related content. The creators believed that their original idea may have influenced what eventually became part of Bearfruit. To be clear, this was an allegation and was never publicly proven. Cole denied wrongdoing, and there's no public evidence proving that the idea was taken. However, the situation gained attention because of the timeline the creators described. Shortly afterward, the video was deleted. Nobody publicly confirmed why it was removed, which naturally led to speculation online. Whether it was due to legal concerns, personal reasons, or something else entirely is unknown. But regardless of what actually happened, Bearfruit became another example of how almost every business venture connected to the LaBrants seemed to come with some sort of controversy attached. And somehow, this still wasn't their last attempt at turning their online audience into a business. Many people had already predicted that, just like most of their other business ventures, the LaBrants would eventually lose interest in Bearfruit within a year or two. And honestly, those people ended up being right. Looking at the app today, it seems like Bearfruit followed the exact same pattern as their previous projects. After the initial launch hype died down, updates became less frequent, and eventually there was basically complete silence from the LaBrants. In fact, a few months ago, the Bearfruit app even became unavailable for download. But before completely abandoning it, the LaBrants had one more way to squeeze some value out of the platform. Shortly before Bearfruit started its slow downfall, Cole made another big announcement. He started by saying that Bearfruit's launch had gone better than expected. But after looking into the needs and struggles of his subscribers, he found that the biggest issues people were facing were related to finance and health, So naturally, the next Bear Fruit feature was a business opportunity. Cole announced that he wanted to personally coach 20 subscribers and teach them how to make more money from their own followers and online platforms. He promised that these people could potentially make $50,000 per year and repeatedly emphasized that he was only looking for 20 very serious people who were willing to commit. On paper, it sounded like a massive opportunity. Who wouldn't want personal coaching from someone who had built a successful online brand? But considering the history of LaBrant business ventures, people were understandably skeptical, especially because they noticed that the opportunity was not as exclusive as Cole made it out to be. After the announcement, people started signing up. But according to Reddit users who followed what happened next, something seemed off almost immediately. One user claimed that they received an email saying that they'd been selected almost instantly after applying and questioned whether they were actually chosen or if everyone received the same message. Another user responded saying that everyone got the email. And according to them, around 900 people ended up joining the Zoom call. So much for only choosing 20 very serious people. When people joined the Zoom call, Cole wasn't alone. He introduced two people as his coaches, Alan and Nicole Blaine.
Hey guys, this is the first ever Zoom with lots of you guys in here. I am co-hosting this with Alan and Nicole Blaine. They are my coaches.
Hey, Virtual Fist Bump, Alan Blaine here, and I help ordinary people live extraordinary lives.
Now for some background, Alan Blaine was presented as a successful businessman and the CEO of a company worth tens of millions of dollars. During the call, Alan talked about his success, his busy lifestyle, and how he felt bad seeing people around his age struggle with their wealth, energy levels, and ability to keep up with their kids. And interestingly enough, those were the exact same problems Cole claimed his subscribers were struggling with. At the beginning of the call, Cole tried to connect with his audience by talking about his own background, saying that he didn't come from extreme wealth and that he understood what it was like to work his way up. But to be fair, his method of working his way up was just exploiting his children.
Are you guys here? You guys are here for one of two reasons or both of two reasons. You need a job and you need money. I'm very aware of that. And you need better health for you or for your friends and family. I come from a very normal family. I'm one of 6 kids. I don't come from a family of money. I don't come from a family of success or any of that. So I'm just very aware of the average American, the average person's needs.
And then he started hyping up the potential earnings people could make, saying that some people on the call could possibly make $20,000, $30,000, or even $100,000 a year, because Alan and Nicole had supposedly seen people achieve those numbers.
I do believe that 12 months from now, there will be a lot of you guys making $20,000 a year, $50,000 a year, I believe even $100,000 a year plus through this opportunity because it's been proven. Not because this is some numbers that I'm trying to sell you on or hype up or anything, but because these are numbers that, Alan and Nicole have seen.
But eventually, the actual opportunity was revealed. It wasn't some secret business coaching program. It was a company called Neolife. For anyone who doesn't know, Neolife operates as a multi-level marketing company, also known as an MLM. An MLM is a business model where people don't just make money from selling products, but also from recruiting other people into the company underneath them. The people higher up in the structure can earn commissions from the sales and activity of the people they recruit. While some MLMs sell legitimate products, the model itself has been heavily criticized because the majority of participants typically make little money, while the people at the top benefit the most from the recruitment structure. And almost immediately, people on the call started realizing what was happening. At one point, Cole himself appeared to almost acknowledge it, saying something along the lines of, "It's a multi," before trailing off and changing the subject.
And because Neolife is literally a it is a bigger company than so many of us
He caught himself.
are aware of.
Once people realized the opportunity was connected to an MLM, many reportedly began leaving the Zoom call. And this is where Cole's faith once again became part of his pitch. He explained that one of the reasons he trusted Neolife was because it was a Christian company.
Interested in me was the Christian aspect of it. And just how much marriage is brought into this company, families stewarded into this company, Jesus is just shown all throughout this company. They are a Christian company, which I love. That is the reason that I believe in this. They have a Christian founder, Jerry Brassfield. They have a Christian CEO, his daughter, Kendra Brassfield, and they are incredible people. They lead so many people to Jesus through their business. Any company that has Christian leadership that is truly leading people to Jesus, that is we could work for and try to make money and try to help people through a lot of things, but if it's not Christian and Jesus oriented, then at the end of the day, I'm filling somebody's pockets who has different beliefs than I do. So that was really important to me.
This became a major point of criticism, because instead of focusing purely on whether the business opportunity itself was actually beneficial, the company was being presented as trustworthy partly because it aligned with religious values. There was also another interesting detail that added fuel to the speculation. The luxury Florida beach house trip that Cole had previously promoted as part of Bearfruit was reportedly connected to Alan Blaine. Because of this connection, some people began speculating that Bearfruit may have been tied to Neolife from the very beginning. The theory was that Bearfruit provided access to a very specific audience, thousands of loyal subscribers who already trusted Cole, shared similar beliefs, and were willing to pay for his platform. Then, with Cole acting as the familiar face and Alan handling the business side, Neolife could potentially be introduced to an audience that was already built in. Now, there's no public proof confirming that Bearfruit was created specifically as a way to funnel people into Neolife, but the timing, the connections, and the way the opportunity was presented definitely raised questions. And it's to be expected by someone who exploits and profits off his own kids. And after all these controversies, failed business ventures, and questionable decisions, the question is, what are the LaBrants actually doing now? Well, just like they always do, they eventually came back to what made them famous in the first place: family content. After taking a break from YouTube and focusing more on other platforms, they returned and started uploading again, bringing the same formula that built their entire empire: their family, their children, and their personal lives. They've also continued expanding their brand with new businesses, including their newest venture, a cosmetics line promoted heavily through Everly. The brand markets itself as something that can be used by both kids and adults, once again putting their children at the center of their business model.
It's time!
Biggest recent controversy once again revolves around the same topic that has followed them for years: their children's involvement in their content. After California introduced child influencer laws designed to protect children featured in monetized online content, the LaBrants moved to Tennessee. They claimed the move was already planned and unrelated to these laws. However, when Tennessee later introduced similar protections for child creators, people noticed something interesting. Just 3 days after those laws were announced, the LaBrants listed their Tennessee house for sale. Now, whether the timing was just a coincidence or not is something only they know. But after years of criticism surrounding their children's involvement in their channel, it naturally raised more questions. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the LaBrant family story. For nearly a decade, the LaBrants have built an empire by turning their personal lives into content. But their success has always raised one major question: at what point does sharing your family become exploiting your family? Millions of followers, countless views, and a successful brand later, the debate around the LaBrants remains the same. Are they simply sharing their lives, or have they taken it too far? Either way, after almost 10 years of controversies, failed ventures, and constant discussion, one thing's clear: the LaBrants remain one of the internet's most talked about families.